morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we've got a whole bunch of new Pokemon cards to be talking about. There are a bunch of cards that came around in Starbirth that we have yet to talk about, so it's probably about time we had a talk about them. The translations here are from the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net. Let's get rolling with Executor. Now, Executor here got 140 HP, which is honestly moderately high for a stage 1, but 4 energy, 130, way too expensive. 3 energy, 70 damage, heal 30. I don't know exactly what we're doing with this. 70 damage is kind of enough to KO weak basic Pokemon, evolving Pokemon, but for 3 energy on a stage 1? Nah. And I know I said that 140 HP is quite high for a stage 1, and it is. But are you honestly telling me you're expecting to be surviving a hit long enough to the healing 30 is going to be relevant? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Want this to be good, do not expect this to be good. Now, I know that Breloom has special significance for one of my lovely supporters over at Patreon, patreon.com/PTCGradio, and there is a little bit of potential with this Breloom. Now, what we've got here is single energy, 30 damage plus sleep, and it's not amazing, but it's still sleep. It can still buy you a turn, it still does a bit of damage. I'd like it way more on a basic Pokemon, but it's not terrible. It is worth noting Slumbering Forest has already rotated, so the whole double heads to wake up from sleep is not happening. But if you use Spore Ball the first attack, then next turn you get to use Dust Upper, single grass energy, 130 damage. And look, that'll get weak Pokemon V, not VMAXs, just V. And that will get your single prize Pokemon more often than not. But the fact of the matter is, it's a 2-turn thing, so you're basically hoping to hit 30, leave them asleep, and then hit 130 the next turn. It's very awkward, ladies and gentlemen. It's very awkward. Now, Crawlon is coming around in this particular set. And what we've got here is single energy, 30 damage. I think the less said about that, the better. But we've also got 3 energy, 150 damage. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. And the problem is here that it's too much. The free energy is too much. The discarding energy is too much. And the 150 damage is too little. All in all, I'm not sure there's much to get excited about here. Now, older players will remember that there was a time that Claydol was flat out, no question, one of the very best cards we'd ever seen in the history of the Pokemon trading card game. And we got lovely fiery artwork here. Is the card any good? Well, 2 energy, 40 damage, no. Yes, it's a single prize Pokemon. Yes, you can use twin energy. No, I don't particularly care. If you're making me evolve and put a twin energy on and you still only let me do 40 damage, I'm not getting terribly excited. But single psychic energy, 2 colorless energy, 90 damage base. If you and your opponent both have the same amount of Pokemon on your bench, this attack does 90 more damage. And you know what? This is going to be difficult, but this could work. I don't know that it will, but it could. Matching bench space, generally speaking, not that difficult. Most people tend to have 4 or 5 bench Pokemon most of the time. If you play against a deck of a low bench, that might be awkward, but most of the time it's not that difficult. Most of the time it is matchable. It can be done. And then you're talking 180, which is enough to KO a Crobat, and enough to KO a Kricketune, and enough to KO anything that's weak, even VMAXs, like Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, or Single Strike Urshifu VMAX, and actually I can get on board with this. Shadow Rider Calyrex can accelerate energy, or Cresselia can in the early game, and there's a chance here. Of the cards in this video, this is one of the most likely to actually end up being pretty good. Now, Chime Echo is another one of those Pokemon that has special significance to one of my lovely supporters over at Patreon, and I feel really sad that 2 of my Patreon followers have their favourite Pokemon featured in the roundup video of cards that maybe won't end up being that good. That makes me genuinely sad. But what we have here is single energy, search your deck for up to 2 special energy, reveal them and put them into your hand. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is some kind of absolutely stunningly amazing, brilliant, great card. It's not. No one's arguing that it is. But if you've got a deck that is super reliant on special energy, and you really need to get your special energy early on in the game, having this as a starting off Pokemon, so you can get that special energy and guarantee to have it early game, it's not the worst card I've ever seen. Of course, if your opponent plays Marnie, that's all going down the drain, but even though it's not a good card, there is a reason to play this. The 2 energy, 30 damage, that is not a reason to play this. It is the first attack. Now, Fro and Sork are back, and I love them. I've got a real soft spot for Gen 5. I've always had a soft spot for Gen 5. The fact that I've recently completed White 2, very shortly after completing White, it's done nothing, shall we say, to dampen my excitement for Gen 5. Unfortunately, there is not much excitement for these cards. Fro is just generally bad. 2 energy, 30. 2 fighting and a colourless, 110. I really like the artwork on this card. That is the only thing I like about this card. Sork, what we've got here is single energy, 30 damage, flip a coin if heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. And look, I'm not arguing this is good, let's be perfectly clear. There is no way, shape or form that I am actually arguing that this is good, let's be perfectly clear. What I am saying is that this is not completely terrible. There is an option, maybe you play around with something like Glimwood Tangle, give yourself that 3 turns out of 4 getting rid of energy, and maybe your opponent's playing a low energy deck, or they're having a few turns in a row where they're struggling to get energy. Maybe you can use this to buy some time or run your opponent out of energy. I do not think it is a good card, but I do think there is a little bit of potential here, just in terms of single energy, basic Pokemon energy denial. Now, Spiritomb is a fun little card, but again, I fear it's more interesting than good. What we've got here is single colourless energy. Until the end of your next turn, the defending Pokemon's weakness is darkness. So the theory here essentially is you're attacking with a darkness Pokemon, but you don't have enough to get a 1-hit KO, so you go ahead and hit for weakness and get a 1-hit KO after having attacked with Spiritomb. My big problem here is that if you've got enough damage to KO with weakness, then you've got enough damage to 2-hit KO. And if I'm using Spiritomb's attack and then attacking, I'm 2-hit KOing, so I'm not entirely sure why I want Spiritomb. Maybe because that means that it's a 2-hit KO, but one of the attacks is a single colourless energy, and that's easier to pull off. That's essentially the reason for Spiritomb. The idea that you're 2-hit KOing, but the first attack is a very, very low rent attack. That's the argument. I'll let you decide if you buy it or not. And then single darkness energy, place 2 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. It's literally worse than Mew, and we played Mew for the bench barrier, and the dropping damage counters was just a fun little bonus. This doesn't even have bench barrier. Although again, if you're playing it for the first attack, there will absolutely be games where you want to use this. Dropping 2 damage counters can win you the game. So, I don't know. As a nice little backup attack, I don't hate it. Now, Probopass is another card where the artwork kind of stands out as being good. There are many of them. I really do feel like the artwork in the Pokemon TCG over the past year or so was just literally the best it's ever been, and I don't mean that in any sense of exaggeration. What we've got here is, free energy, 120 plus 20 to yourself? No. Too much energy, too little damage, and you're self-damaging as well? Nah. But 2 colourless energy, switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench. This attack does 40 to the new active Pokemon. And this one, now again, I am not actually saying this is good. But I am saying that it's a little bit cheeky and a little bit fun, and there's a tiny bit of potential here. I mean, maybe your opponent plays a 30 or 40 HP Pokemon, or a Pokemon that you can, poke into 40 HP range, and then you get the KO. But maybe you just strand something active while doing a little bit of damage. The problem is, although you can use Twin Energy again, you're still talking 2 energy on a Stage 1 Pokemon, and this is the kind of attack where it can be fun, but single energy basic Pokemon. My classic example of this, and it's not a card that saw a huge amount of play, but it's a great example of doing exactly this, was the Oricorio from Celestial Storm. That one, for a single fire energy, switched one of your opponent's bench to the active and got Burn and Confusion. That was worth getting a little bit excited about. Probopass is not. Now, Heatran's a legendary Pokemon, so you might think that Heatran is awesome and worth getting excited about, but actually it's very kind of bleh. 2 colorless energy, 30 damage, and during your opponent's next turn you take 30 less damage from attacks. It's nice, don't get me wrong, but let's not kid ourselves, it's not particularly great. It's a kind of attack that you use if you're getting a KO anyway. It's basically the same as we saw on Jumpluff. But Jumpluff we played for mass attack, and then Leaf Guard would be like, well, as I'm getting a KO anyway, might as well use Leaf Guard so I don't take as much damage next turn. Here it's 2 colorless energy, and you got to have another reason to play the card. And the second attack, I'm not buying it. 2 metal, 1 colorless energy, 80 damage, but if you've also got a fire energy on there, you do 160 instead. The problem is 160 still isn't particularly good, and you can't even use that new Magma Basin Stadium because it's a metal Pokemon, not a fire Pokemon, and Magma Basin only accelerates fire energy to fire Pokemon, so yeah. You're still not getting a KO on stuff like Crobat. You will actually get Kricketune because of the weakness, but no, that's not a reason to play the card. If you've got to use weakness and multiple energy just to get a KO on Kricketune, something's gone wrong. 3 energy, 160 damage, needing 2 different kinds of energy. Nah, it's not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to work. Now, when I saw Klinklang first of all, I saw that it had an ability. And this made me very, very excited indeed. Because in the past, we had Klinklang with abilities that were just absolutely great. We had the one that could move metal energy around the board. And we had the one that gave an immunity to EX Pokemon. John Roberts went and won US Nationals with Klinklang one year. That Klinklang, the combination of these two, it really was the abilities. We saw Klinklang being a top deck for ages. I got really excited when I saw a new Klinklang with an ability. Klinklang didn't get its own video. It's been popped into this video. You know where I'm going with this. As long as this Pokemon is in play, all of your Pokemon will receive 20 less damage from your opponent's attacks. And look, I appreciate that it is protecting all of your Pokemon, not just itself. But the fact of the matter is, it's a Stage 2 that gives you a tiny little bit of protection. And in most games, 20 damage is not really the deciding factor. I would love to be wrong. Love to be wrong. But I just don't think that's ever going to work. 3 energy, 90 damage, flip a coin if heads 180. And 180, as we've talked about, is a much better number. Yay! But also, no. 3 energy on a Stage 2 and you've got to flip a heads. Yes, 180 might be a key number. But that is just asking way too much of me. That don't impress me much. Now, Cast Form is back, and I actually don't mind Cast Form. Now, the 2 colorless energy, 30 damage, move a basic energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench. Nah. Not loving it, don't like it, don't care. But single colorless energy, draw 2 cards, yeah. That's actually pretty good. Now, these kind of cards don't generally tend to see much play at the moment, but you can imagine a situation in which they will. And as it stands at the moment, I mean, we've got the Klefki from Fusion Strike that draws 2 cards while doing 10 damage, but doesn't have the second attack, but does actually do 10 damage. You've got the Jinx from Fusion Strike, which has 100 HP and draws 2 cards. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. In Fusion Strike alone, there are potentially better options. But still, Colourless Energy, draw 2 cards. And it is worth pointing out, and I don't think this is going to be terribly relevant, but we are going to have a situation in a couple years' time where Klefki and Jinx both rotate out, but Cast Form doesn't. Yeah, I'm afraid the drawing 2 cards is nice, but we have better options. And finally, we've got Cinccino, and the first Cinccino we ever saw in the black and white base set is one of my favourite cards we've ever had. I played that card so much, I loved it so much. I am a huge fan of that card. And of course, we've got the Cinccino from Sword and Shield that has been a staple in my decks for a long time. You know, Cinccino Executor was my deck. I love that deck. I've got so much love for Cinccino in the Pokemon TCG. It really is one of my favourite Pokemon in terms of, you know, cards I've played many of. I adore Cinccino. I don't adore this Cinccino. Single Colourless Energy, 40 damage, no. 2 Colourless Energy, flip 3 coins, 50 for each heads, no. Because you see, if it was 60 for each heads, then I'd only have like a 1 in 8 chance, but there would at least be a chance that I would be able to flip 3 heads and do 180 and hit relevant damage on something like a Crobat. Bearing in mind, of course, and this is very important, we don't hit for weakness when we're playing colourless Pokemon, so we've got to just do the damage straight up. And yeah, you see where I'm going with this. Even if you flip all 3 heads, even if you hit that 1 in 8 shot of hitting all 3 heads, you're still doing 150 damage, which isn't enough. So, yeah. I have got so much love for Cinccino in the Pokemon TCG. Me and Cinccino have been on many adventures and won many games together. But the fact of the matter is, this Cinccino sucks. Sorry. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have now had a look at every single card in Starbirth, as we are wont to do, and now it's over to you guys. There are a couple of cards in this video that I think do have a little bit of potential, things like Claydol and Spiritomb, but I want to hear from you guys. Have I been too harsh on any of these cards? Are any of these cards better than I make it out? Or are they terrible? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.